welcome back. Thanks for joining me today. So it's 5 o'clock, so why don't we go ahead and get started. So I'll introduce myself real quick for those who don't know me. My name is Marissa Soski. I'm a naturopathic doctor practicing in Portland, Oregon. I will soon have a practice in Los Angeles opening within the next couple weeks, so stay tuned. If you have any interest in seeing a naturopath or have any friends who want to see a naturopath, feel free to refer them to me, and I will be announcing that as soon as I go live with the business, just finishing up some couple things. So thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to do something a little bit different than the past weeks. I had a really busy week and didn't have time to really prep a recipe, and so here we are. And also I had a bunch of vegetables that were kind of about to go bad in my fridge, and so instead of creating a new recipe and having to buy new vegetables, I just decided that today would be a kind of a preview into, or a look into, how I utilize things that I have around the house to improvise a meal. So we're gonna improvise today. So I took a look earlier today at what I had, and I kind of was feeling like doing some kind of Asian stir fry, and so that's what we're gonna be doing. And I'll say, sorry, just got a comment. Hi, Presley. Thanks for watching. Glad you're doing your homework. I have the sauce that we're going to make today is based off of some staples that I have around my house. And so I thought that would be good to talk about, and then also about how to just kind of make it up as you go along. So let's get started. So let's talk about maybe some of the vegetables I had around my house. So I didn't prep any of these because I kind of wanted to show you. So you see I have this bok choy that I bought a little bit ago, and it's kind of yellowing, and so that needed to go. I had 2 different halves of an onion that had kind of been sitting there for a little bit, so that needed to go. I had 1 lone carrot. I had a whole head of cabbage that I haven't done anything with yet. I had some green onions and some celery. And lastly is I planted my garden not too long ago, and I got some broccoli from my garden. So we're going to throw that in there too. So let's get chopping. So I also don't have a vegetable of the week today. Again, I'm very busy week. I did not have a lot of time to prep. So we can just talk about the different things as I use them, and I might actually just talk about more my process of how I choose things. So there are certain vegetables that I kind of feel go with certain flavors or certain kinds of food, so in terms of regionally around the world. And so bok choy, for example, I think really goes really well in Asian dishes. Now, for example, I have some marinara sauce that's sitting open in my fridge, and I kind of had the thought of maybe I would use that today, but it didn't really go with the vegetables. I had bok choy, I had cabbage, I had some broccoli, and then I had some miso paste that I need to use up, and so the marinara sauce just didn't really fit that picture, and so I'll probably just do another improvised meal with that, or make another dish. And then there are other, so we can take a step back and let's say I really wanted to use the marinara sauce. Some vegetables that I would think to use in it would be more along the lines of pepper, eggplant, maybe some more like Italian seasoning, some parsley, and I would kind of go that direction with it and use some vegetables that are more known to be in Italian cooking than Asian cooking. And this time, I'm remembering to do my garlic as one of the first steps, so that's awesome. Usually I forget. As I'm going, feel free to drop in comments or questions about either my cooking process or some staples that I have in my house. This is going to be a little bit more ad-libbed today instead of planned out. So I'm very open to anybody kind of directing the conversation if you have any questions. So feel free to comment. And yeah, so garlic is great for immunity. And I say this every week. It's really good to prep it ahead of time, or as one of the first things you do, because when you crush the cell wall of the garlic, it really helps release the beneficial properties of the garlic and helps the enzymes in it need to kind of sit and do their work for about 10 minutes before they meet before the nutrition value reaches its max potential. So doing this first is a good idea. And I got a shout out from a friend. There's a couple people out there cooking with us today, so that's awesome. Thanks for cooking with us. Now today we're going to use tempeh in this dish, but you could theoretically use any protein. That's just what I had sitting around. So I'll show you. This is the tempeh. It was frozen, so I'm just defrosting it and letting it sit out. So multi-grain tempeh. So tempeh traditionally is made with soy, and you take whole soybeans and it's for a fermented product. And so I've actually made tempeh. My partner, my fiance, has introduced me, or he taught me how to make tempeh. He's made it quite a bit in the past in his class. And what you do is you take beans and you do like a starter culture, kind of like you would use with yogurt. And you take cooked beans, you put them in a dish, you put the starter culture, which is a yeast or bacteria mix, and then it grows and fills in. So all that white part in between the individual beans, which are kind of the brown spots you see, is all fermentation. And so it's really good for you. It's one of the most digestible forms of soy products because the fermentation process starts the breakdown process, and so your body doesn't have to do it for you. And so tempeh is one of the most tolerated forms of soy, and it's really good for you because it has probiotics since it's fermented. Now we usually cook it, so that kills a lot of it, but it's still a really, really good source of soy and a really good source of protein. So that's what we're going to be making today. And I have my go-to way to cook tempeh that I also got from my partner, so shout out to him again. He's taught me a lot in the kitchen. He likes to remind me of that, but I have also taught him quite a bit. So we have a way that we like to prep tempeh. It's like a really, really general way, and it's really good to then just prep it quick and then throw it in just about anything. So I'll show you guys that today later. Almost done with garlic. So I think onions and garlic should be a staple of just about any meal, if possible. There are definitely people who don't tolerate that family they're both in the allium family of vegetables, and there are definitely people who don't tolerate it. But if you do tolerate it, I think it's a really great thing to include in just about any meal. Really good for the immune system, really good to get your blood flowing, really good for circulation issues. I highly, highly recommend a garlic press. It just makes your whole life a lot easier. All right, garlic. Now I had a white onion, so I'm going to cut some red onion. Now I just cut them in strips. So I'll probably be doing some things in like bigger pieces just to make it easier. So instead of dicing them, we went in strips just for a different consistency. So one of the things I love about improvising or just using what's in the kitchen is oftentimes you get really surprised with how good something comes out, or it challenges you to create and be creative and come up with something. And for some people, I know this is not a new concept of just like coming up with what's in your kitchen, but some for people who don't cook a lot, it can be really intimidating to have a bunch of ingredients and not really know what to do with it. And so I think having some go-to sauces is really nice. So if you just have some vegetables, you can always throw sauce on it. Or having some like marinara sauce around the house, or some teriyaki sauce in bottles. Even that can just really be an easy way to take some vegetables, cook them up real quick, take some protein, cook that up real quick, throw some sauce on it, and then be good to go. Alright, so now we're going to cook up some bok choy, cut up some bok choy. You can see I'm just like pulling a couple of these bad leaves off and just throwing them in the compost. So if you've never cooked with bok choy before, I highly recommend it. You give it a try. It's a really awesome green. It's in the brassica family as well, so same as kale and broccoli. They're all in the same family, and it's kind of a sweeter green. It's not as bitter as some of the other greens like chard or kale. It's a really nice flavor. It's like a mix between it's kind of like a sweet radishy flavor. And maybe it's more bitter. My taste buds are a little off. I tend to think things are not as bitter and are more sweet than other people's, but I think it's great. And it kind of has that consistency of celery when you eat it. It's crunchy. Speaking of celery, we cut up some celery. So in this dish, I didn't clean out the tops, so I just included all the tops, and so there's going to be some leafy greens, but it's going to add a nice flavor and some different textures, some more leafy textures. Always better. I'll be interesting. So if you're cooking out with me at home, just play around today. Enjoy it. Try something new. See if it works out. See if you like it. All right. Next is going to be some purple cabbage. Now I like purple cabbage more than green cabbage for the most part, because things that are more colorful tend to have more antioxidants, especially the purples. If you think of berries, we associate berries with antioxidants, and that's because of their purples and their blues and their reds and stuff like that. So I really like red cabbage for that reason, but neither is necessarily better than the other. I'm only going to use probably a half or a quarter today since it's kind of big. Take out the big stem in the middle. So I do that just by cutting like a triangle and cutting that out. And we're going to cut it in eighths, and then into strips. And we got some broccoli from the garden, which I'm really excited about. I often usually can't get broccoli to grow very well. And as you see, this is kind of a Peasley broccoli, but it's so awesome that it came up. And I had to pull it today because, as you see, it started to flower and started to make seeds. So we're going to use this today, and I'm really excited. As summer hits and as the season goes on, I'm gonna have more and more things being incorporated from my garden, which I'm really excited about. I'm growing probably at least 20 different varieties of fruits and vegetables out there. So it'll be really fun to see what comes up and what's ready. And I might try to build my recipes about what's in my garden. All right, so green onion is gonna just go on top, and so we can cut that later. But I'm gonna, as you see, this I definitely had to use up as the leaves are kind of going bad. And I think oftentimes people see stuff go bad in their fridge, and then they throw the whole thing out. And I would just want to show you guys too that things can really be salvageable, even if you end up having to throw away quite a bit of it. It's nice when you can at least save some of it and maybe just mix it with another vegetable or something else to fill it out so you don't have to throw away everything. Throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. So we're just going to clean up these green onions. This looks pretty good. And then another thing I wanted to show you guys today is just playing with textures and using different things. Or cutting things in different ways and kind of seeing how you like that and seeing how that fits in a dish. So I only had one small carrot today, so I had a couple options. One is I could cut it into slices and just have that spread out kind of sporadically throughout the dish. And another thing I like doing though is to shred the carrot and get a different consistency. It cooks a lot quicker when you shred it, and it can spread out, it can make it appear like more since the pieces, the individual pieces are smaller. And so I'm going to shred this carrot today for something a little bit different than usual. Kind of a flimsy carrot, so it's just kind of bending as I do this, but do be careful with this. I've definitely gotten some blood in dishes from grating my fingertips. So when you're grating, you don't have to be a hero and get every last piece. You can always just take the last little nub and just throw it away. These pieces are a little too small for me to hold on to, so we're just going to leave those. I'm going to toss that end in the compost. All right, so we have all our vegetables prepped, and we're ready to go. So we are going to head over to the stove and start cooking. All right, so I have a bunch of different pans here because we're going to do a number of different things kind of all at once. This goes back to the multitasking that I have talked about in the past. So we're going to get our veggies started. And then I'm going to show you how to do tempeh, and at the same time we have two other things. We have noodles and edamame to heat up. Now the edamame is super easy. I get frozen packs of edamame from Costco. They come in really big bags, but they're separated out into individual packets. And edamame is really awesome because soybeans are essentially a whole meal all in once, and I definitely have mastered adulting. But sometimes if I'm too tired or too lazy to cook, I will just eat a whole bag of these with some salt, and that's a meal because it has everything you need. It has fat, protein, carbohydrates. I wouldn't recommend having your diet solely on edamame, but it is a great food if you, in a pinch, if you don't really have the energy to make anything else. So we're going to get started and heat some water for edamame and for our vegetables. And then also for some noodles. So I'm going to do everything today in coconut oil. In the past, I really have, there we go. In the past, I've done a lot with sesame oil, but today we're going to do coconut because the easy, yummy tempeh recipe I do involves coconut oil, so I just thought I'd go with coconut oil for everything. Now, I know this is a plug for Costco again. I have no affiliation with Costco. They are just awesome, as everyone knows, but Costco is one of the best places to get coconut oil. I'm going to melt our coconut oil. And let's put some in the pan for the tempeh. The nice thing about coconut oil is it's really good for your skin, so if you have any extra on your hands, you can just rub it in. Alright, so as that stuff is getting done, I'm going to show you guys how to make tempeh. So this recipe works really well, not just with tempeh, but also with tofu. And theoretically, you could do just about any protein this way, just as a simple. I feel like chicken would go really well with this method. But essentially, it is just coconut oil and tamari, and you fry it kind of on one side, and you flip it and fry it on the other side, and it's really delicious. So we're just going to cut the tempeh into kind of like slices. So I'm cutting them maybe about a 1/2 inch thick. And then I'll take those bricks and then cut them in half once. Now for the tempeh recipe, it works best if you use a nonstick pan. You definitely can use a stainless steel or something with that isn't nonstick, but it just is easiest because it doesn't stick. And always remember, when you use nonstick, never use metal. Always use wood or silicone, so that you don't scratch the nonstick surface, because the nonstick surface is oftentimes made up of chemicals that are neurotoxic and really toxic to your body, and so you don't want that to be released in your food. Alright, so our oil is about ready for our veggies, so we're going to start. Today I am going to stagger veggies because I want them to cook at different times. Lately I haven't been doing that. So we're going to start by putting in some onion and the cabbage, because those two things take the longest to cook. pretty and purple right now. Alright, now that while that's cooking, we're going to get our tempeh started. So all you do is you melt some coconut oil and then take some tamari. And I mean, it's about maybe a tablespoon or two. You can definitely add more if you want it saltier, or less if you want it less salty. And then you just mix up the soy sauce into the coconut oil. As you can kind of see, now you have this like it breaks up into little droplets because tamari is water-based and oil is oil. So they don't mix together, and so they just break up into little droplets. But once you throw the tempeh in there, it all gets absorbed into the tempeh, and it's delicious. So we're gonna, now you just take these and you set them down flat. Not quite hot enough. Now you can also add other stuff to this mixture if you want to make it a little fancier, like ginger is really good, orange juice is really good. My partner has a recipe where he does this plus a little bit of salsa, some orange juice, ginger, and a little bit of maple syrup and lime, and that's really good too. But this is just the most simple version of it. Almost got them all in there. All right, so all our tempeh's in there now. Give our vegetables a stir. All right, and now our next round of vegetables is going to go in. So since these are going to take the longest to cook, that's why we waited. So the next things that are going to go in are the broccoli and the celery. Now normally if I had cut the carrot into chunks instead of shredding it, I would also have added it in earlier with the cabbage, but since it's shredded, the pieces are going to cook a lot faster, and so it's going to go in later the next round where we're going to do the bok choy and the carrot and garlic. that's ready. And now our water, at least for this one, is ready. So I'm going to throw the edamame in there and get them cooking up. And these are already pre-cooked, so I just need to defrost them. Those only take a couple minutes. All right, now I think our tempeh is just about ready to be flipped. Again, non-metal with silicone. I really drive that in because I think it's really important, and so many houses I go to have nonstick pans that are all scratched up, and it doesn't offend me or anything like that. It's just it's not good for your body to ingest that, and so I really want people to take that to heart, to not use metal on nonstick or anything that can scratch it. And so now we're just flipping the tempeh onto the other side, and then we'll let it cook on that side, and then that's it. And that's the tempeh. Makes it really easy. Trying to get them off it. Keep flipping back over. All right, so all our tempeh's flipped, so now we're just going to cook it on that side a little bit longer. Again, feel free, if you have any questions, feel free to leave questions in the chat. All right, so vegetables, I think we're about ready for the next, cooking away. We're about ready for the next round of things to go in. So the next round of things that are going to go in are carrot, the bok choy, and garlic. Now, one of the things I haven't mentioned yet, but I mentioned in the past, is cooking with a rainbow. So every color vegetable has different phytonutrients, and the different colors are associated with those nutrients. And while all of them are great, and neither one is better than the other, it is nice to have a variety because they all do slightly different things. And so you want to eat different colors, so you eat the rainbow, so eat all the colors of the rainbow. So today in here, we have some beautiful purples and greens and oranges. So it's looking really pretty. now we're going to let those veggies just sit and cook. I'm going to try one of these edamame and see if they're done. Now at this point, I think the tempeh is pretty much about done, and so I'm just going to shut it off but leave it on there because then it'll just finish cooking on the pan. We're not quite ready for it. So edamame is just about done. Now our water for our noodles is ready. So I have some forbidden rice forbidden rice pad thai noodles. Ramen noodles work well too. Forbidden rice, again, kind of going back to that idea that purple has more antioxidants. So forbidden rice, which is a black rice, tends to have more antioxidants than brown, and certainly more than white rice. And those only take about 5 minutes to cook. Alright, so now we're going to strain our edamame. Those are about done. So I'm just going to pour it out. Ooh, that's hot. Let's do something and grab that. So now you can't see me do that, but it's not exciting. I just poured them over the strainer to strain the water out into the sink. Alright, so now we're going to make our sauce while all this is cooking. Insert the vegetables one more time, but they're just sitting getting all yummy. Alright, so for our sauce, we're going to use some staples that I have around the house almost all the time. So miso paste is one of them. Now I only have a little bit left, so we're just going to use it up. As you can see, it's kind of just on the side of the container. Oftentimes I do that, that happens because a recipe calls for a specific amount, and I use that, and instead of, I should have just thrown it all in. But here we are, which is nice because now I can use it for this. And so we're going to take some miso, and we're going to take some soy sauce, some tamari, and then we're going to use coconut aminos, which I've mentioned in the past, but we haven't used. Now, coconut aminos is nice because it can be a replacement for soy sauce if you are soy intolerant. It has a slightly different flavor, so I encourage you to go out and try it and taste it and see how you like it. It's, in my opinion, a little bit sweeter. It's a little bit sweeter than soy sauce. It still has that salty and umami flavor that soy sauce does, but it has also has a sweetness. So I like combining them together. Now, I'm just going to eye it for today because I'm not using a recipe anyway. And I encourage you to do the same just to play with flavors. So try a little bit, add some of one, add some of the other, taste it when you're all done, and then see if it needs more. And kind of, I think it's a great way to experiment in the kitchen and to experiment with different flavors and kind of learn those flavor profiles so that you can develop recipes for yourself and troubleshoot when recipes don't exactly go according to plan or don't taste as good as you think they're going to taste. Then you can fix them. So we're going to throw, and I'm just going to mix them. Usually I would mix this in something else, but since the miso paste is just already in this jar, I'm just going to use this jar. So we're going to do some coconut aminos. I'm doing about 2 tablespoons. And then we're going to do a little bit of soy sauce. Maybe like 1 tablespoon. And then I'm going to zest some some orange into there. And then we're also going to do some garlic, or some ginger. This is definitely something I have to use up because it is getting moldy on the outsides. So ginger is nice because you can essentially just cut off the moldy parts and then use the rest, and then it's all good. So we're going to microplane some ginger in there. And then I'm going to have to add some lime juice. You can also do vinegar for this, so you just kind of want something that's acidic. So I'm going to do some lime, but vinegar would work well as like a brown rice vinegar or a white wine vinegar. And then when you add an acid, it's always nice to add some maple syrup just to balance it out, so we're going to do that too. A little bit. All right, let's mix this up and see how it tastes. So the thing with miso is it takes a little bit of extra effort to get it all mixed in, but it is worth it because it's delicious. I'm going to put the sauce making on hold for just a second because our noodles are done. Empty out the edamame. Actually, I should probably test the noodles before. Alright, now I'm going to pour these out. And the trick to getting noodles to not stick is to rinsing them with cold water once you do this. All right, now almost everything's ready. We just gotta finish our sauce. So let's mix this up. All right, now we try it. See how it is. Pretty good. Now, I think it's a little on the sweet side, so I'm going to add a little bit more lime to balance out the sweet to add more acid. Now, if it was the opposite way, if it was too acidic, then I would add more sweet. So I'm going to not add quite a whole lime. Much better. All right, so now we're just going to add a little bit of sesame seed for texture and prettiness. Careful not to get in your eye. Okay, Now, last thing is last is that we just have to pop some of this edamame so that we can just use just the edamame, not the whole, but just the bean. As I'm doing this, feel free to drop any questions or comments in the comment section. I really appreciate you guys watching today and improvising with me in the kitchen. I think this meal's gonna be really good. All right, now that's enough for about at least a serving. So we'll stop there. All right, so now we're gonna mix it all together, make a one-pot shop. So I'm gonna take some noodles in my mixing bowl. Some noodles. Take some of these vegetables. Now the reason I'm not all mixing it all together at once is just that I made up way more vegetables than would fit, or that would ratio-wise between the tempeh and even the noodles. And so I'm just going to make an individual bowl, and it's nice because I'll have leftover vegetables then to mix with something else. And we'll throw in some pieces of tempeh. Some edamame. And then lastly, some sauce. And we're going to toss that all together. And then we'll dish it up. This meal turned out, in my opinion, very beautiful just because there are so many different purples in here. We had the purple cabbage and purple onion or red onion, and then the purple noodles with the forbidden rice noodles. So it's just, and then lots of greens with the bok choy and the bok choy and celery and edamame. Oh, and lastly, we forgot some green onion. Just gonna throw some of this in. Get it out of the way. Alright, and then we just top with some green onion. And there we go. We got an Asian stir fry. Improvised kitchen. So I hope you guys learned a couple things just about how to use things that are around your house without having to use a recipe and kind of going with the flow. And if you have any questions, I can stick around to answer them. Or we actually threw this all together in less than an hour, which is awesome. Super quick, easy to do if you're running low on time. Otherwise, Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next week. Feel free to leave also any recommendations or interest in future themes for videos. So take care. Thanks again for watching.